2 years after heart-wrenching humiliation, she unveils an incredible revenge you won't believe. Sarah Dawson stood in the center of Maplewood, the small Midwestern town where everyone knew each other's names and secrets were as fragile as glass. 2 years had passed since that fateful afternoon when she, a hard-working single mother, was falsely accused of theft at the local insurance office by a woman whose whispers dripped with venom. The sting of betrayal consumed her. It was the moment her world began to unravel, her dignity stripped away in front of a crowd that once considered her a friend. Such a public humiliation is rarely forgotten, and in Maplewood, rumors spread like wildfire, leaving Sarah feeling isolated. Each day, as she juggled waiting tables at the diner and working long hours at the farm, she felt the weight of judgment in every lingering gaze. The laughter of her 2 children echoed in her heart, yet every smile was shadowed by the humiliation that hung over her like a dark cloud. Then came the night shifts at the diner, where the hum of the regulars formed a soundtrack to her resilience. Every poured cup of coffee, each plate wiped clean became a mini victory, a testament that she was more than the town labeled her. In the flickering light of the diner, Sarah found kindred spirits: an old veteran, a struggling musician, and a young immigrant, all fighting their own battles. Stories flowed like the coffee, and with each shared laugh and tear, her soul found home again. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. 2 years of bearing the burden transformed her into a woman of strength. As Sarah navigated the day-to-day struggles, the love for her children fueled her desire to turn their lives around. But one fateful evening, she stumbled upon undeniable evidence of corruption at the insurance office, revealing their long history of shady practices and deceit. It sparked something deep within her, an ember of determination ignited into a fire for justice. The day came for Sarah to confront the insurance office, her heart racing with adrenaline. As the clock ticked down, every beat was a reminder of her journey, a reflection of the scars and the lessons learned. With the townspeople gathered, she stood before them, ready to unveil the truth. But then she caught her breath. The woman who had shattered her life stood before her, eyes portrayed a mixture of regret and defiance. This moment hung in the air, thick with tension as Sarah wrestled with her next move. Would she seek revenge for the years of pain, or would she rise above, perhaps even offer forgiveness? As the townspeople leaned in, their breaths held collectively, the weight of betrayal and hope intertwined, leaving the room on edge. Which path would she choose? In that charged silence, where the past collided with an uncertain future, questions lingered: can true justice ever coexist with the scars of betrayal? Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. The gathered crowd was a whirlwind of whispers and strained glances, all waiting for her decision. She could feel their eyes boring into her, a mixture of support and curiosity. But the face of the woman who had wronged her, Rachel's heart, made her stomach churn. Rachel's eyes, normally so calculating, showed something different today. Was that remorse? Or simply fear? Sarah couldn't tell. The years had twisted her anger into a sharp blade, ready to slice through the mask of betrayal. Yet as she stood there, the impressive weight of the crowd shifted something within her. Perhaps it wasn't just about retribution, perhaps it was about redemption for them both. 2 years, Sarah said finally, her voice shaky at first. For 2 years, I've lived under a cloud of shame and hatred because of one lie. Her gaze connected with those of familiar faces in the crowd, her neighbors, friends, and her own children peeking from behind the legs of a well-meaning old lady. 2 years of looking over my shoulder, wondering what everyone thinks of me. The memory of her children's innocent laughter came rushing back. She thought of how they had fought to retain their innocence while she dragged them through the ashes of her fallen reputation. But let me tell you something. She paused, drawing in a deep breath. It's time for those who lie to be held accountable. The murmur intensified, rippling through the crowd like a tide pulling back from the shore. Sarah sensed what they were thinking. Was she really about to do this? Rachel stepped forward, eyes wide with a mix of defiance and desperation. Sarah, please. I made a mistake. I never meant for it to go this far. It was just a misunderstanding. Can't we just move on? The words barely registered. The pain of those 2 years eclipsed any form of forgiveness that teetered on the brink of her lips. No, Sarah replied, her voice suddenly stronger, fortified by the memories of countless sleepless nights. This was never about misunderstanding. It was about a choice you made to destroy my life. Now I have proof of the fraud happening in that office. And it's time everyone knew. With shaky hands, Sarah pulled out the files she had gathered, the evidence that could expose the corrupt practices of the insurance office. For every lie that's been told, there's a truth waiting to be uncovered. Gasps erupted from the audience, some faces filled with disbelief, others with excitement. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was a battle for everyone who ever faced unjust ridicule. I won't let you continue stealing from this community, Rachel, Sarah declared, as realization blossomed in the crowd. You'll never chip away at my spirit again. Rachel's face drained of color, and Sarah felt lighter, almost liberated. This was the moment she had been waiting for. Each word she spoke unleashed more of the burden she had carried for so long. Yet as she finished, a wave of uncertainty washed over her. Was she throwing herself into the storm, exposing not just the insurance office but also herself once more? Just then, the sheriff stepped forward, a stern look on his face. Silence blanketed the crowd. We need to talk about what you've uncovered, he said, stepping closer. The stakes just escalated. As the weight of his authority loomed, Sarah's heart raced with anticipation. Would this truly lead to salvation, or was she unwittingly walking into another trap? In that heartbeat of silence, with her future hanging in the balance, one question echoed in her mind. Was this the end of her fears or the beginning of something far more intense and unpredictable? The sheriff's eyes held a glimmer of understanding, tempered with authority. Sarah, he said, his voice steady, this isn't a game. You're stepping into some serious territory. If you have evidence, we need to handle this correctly. You could be putting yourself at risk. The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting between Sarah and Rachel. In that moment, Sarah felt the weight of every choice she had made crash down on her. She glanced at her children, their innocent faces peeking out from behind the old lady, and her heart clenched. She had to protect them, even if it meant walking through fire. I understand, Sheriff. But I can't stand by any longer while she plays games with people's lives, Sarah replied, her voice firm yet trembling with emotion. Rachel scoffed, a tinge of anger still lingering. You think you're a hero, don't you? This isn't going to end well for you, Sarah. You're just a pawn in a much bigger game. There it was again, that toxic blend of fear and defiance in Rachel's voice. Sarah could feel the crowd pulse, their energy shifting as they absorbed the moment. She was nobody's pawn. She was a mother, a woman who had endured and fought back. No longer would she let Rachel dictate the terms. You're right, Rachel. I'm not a pawn. I'm a fighter, Sarah shot back, her words fierce, igniting a flicker of hope within the crowd. Let's go to my office, the sheriff suggested. We'll talk this through and see what evidence you've got. Wait. Hold on, Rachel cried, desperation painting her voice. You can't seriously believe her. This is outrageous. But the sheriff was already moving, signaling for Sarah to follow. As they walked away, she could feel the eyes of the crowd on her, some supportive, others skeptical. Each step toward the sheriff's office felt like a march into the unknown, laden with both fear and determination. Once inside, the sheriff motioned for her to sit. All right, let's see what we're dealing with here, he said, flipping a notepad open. Tell me everything. Sarah took a deep breath, piecing together her thoughts as she began to recount the twisted tale that had brought her here. Her hands trembled slightly as she laid out the files, detailing the web of deceit that Rachel had spun around the community. Each revelation poured from her lips, steadying her resolve. As she spoke, time seemed to slip away. The sheriff leaned in closer, his interest piquing. "These are serious allegations, Sarah. We need to verify everything quickly. We can't let Rachel know we're on to her." The door creaked open behind them, and Sarah turned to see the last of the crowd dispersing, whispers trailing behind them like shadows. It made her heart ache to think of them scattering without answers, but she knew this was just the beginning. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she stepped closer to the window, peering out. A black SUV had pulled up in front of the building, and a group of intimidating figures emerged. She swallowed hard, the stark reality crashing in a wave of dread mixed with a renewed determination surged through her. "Who are they?" she gasped, panic rising in her chest. The sheriff's expression hardened as he moved the blinds back into place. "It looks like we have trouble, Sarah. You might have just awakened something far more dangerous than you ever anticipated." With her pulse racing, Sarah's mind raced ahead. She had ventured this far, but was this just the start of a battle she couldn't win? What if those figures were linked to the very corruption she sought to expose? "Are you ready for what's coming?" The sheriff's question hung heavily in the air. In that moment, Sarah realized it was no longer just about her. This was about the community, about everyone who had suffered at the hands of deceit. "I have to be ready," she replied, her voice steady despite the storm brewing outside. But she knew that whatever was coming next would push her further than she ever imagined. The real fight was just beginning, and she had to summon every ounce of strength to face it. As the shadow of the SUV loomed larger outside, a chilling thought crossed her mind. Could she withstand the truth that was about to unfold, or would it ultimately destroy her? The tension in the sheriff's office was palpable. Sarah's heart raced as she tried to focus on the men outside, the gravity of the sheriff's question echoing in her mind. The figures moved with calculated precision, their postures imposing. She couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. "Sarah," the sheriff said, breaking her reverie. "We need to figure out a plan, and fast." "Plan?" she echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. "What can we do if they're here for me?" The sheriff leaned back, crossing his arms. "If they're tied to Rachel, they might think they can intimidate you into silence. But we need to take action now. Keep your children close." Just as the sheriff spoke, the sound of heavy footsteps approached the door. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The sheriff instinctively moved closer to her, a silent barrier, ready to shield her from whatever was coming. The door burst open. One of the men from the SUV entered, his face a mask of calm menace. "Sheriff," he greeted with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We need to have a word." Sarah's palms began to sweat as she instinctively took a step back. What did they want? She looked to the sheriff. His steely gaze remained locked on the intruder. "Not in my office, you don't," the sheriff said, his voice low but firm. "Whatever business you have with her, it's not happening here." The man chuckled, dismissing the sheriff's authority with a wave. "She's the talk of the town, isn't she? Thought I'd come see for myself what all the fuss was about." Sarah felt exposed under his gaze, her vulnerabilities laid bare. She had fought to be brave, but facing someone like him felt different. There were no cards left to play. She could feel her hands shaking again, a mix of fear and anger surging through her. "Why don't you step outside?" the sheriff said, his composure unwavering. "You're crossing a line." The man's smile faded. "I'm not here to make waves, Sheriff. Just checking on an old friend." He took a step closer to Sarah, and she could see the predatory glint in his eyes. "You should know, Sarah, there are consequences for stirring the pot. Rachel isn't someone to take lightly. That's enough," the sheriff growled, moving to block Sarah from the man's approach. You need to leave. For a heartbeat, tension hung thick in the air. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, the man stepped back, his smile returning like a snake shedding its skin. I'll be around, just remember, you can't play with fire without getting burned. With that, he turned and left, his footsteps echoing into the distance. Sarah stared at the empty doorway, disbelief coursing through her. What do we do now? The fear she had tried to suppress crept back into her voice. The sheriff ran a hand through his hair and sighed. Now, we gather whatever evidence you have and we plan our next steps. This isn't just about you anymore, it's about protecting your community. The intensity of the moment shifted. Sarah felt something deep within her begin to solidify. She wasn't alone anymore. They were in this fight together. Let us do it, she said with a new sense of purpose, surprising even herself. Let us end this. With a nod, the sheriff grabbed the file she had compiled earlier. We'll need everything: names, dates, transactions. The more they see we are prepared, the less likely they'll act rashly. As they flipped through the pages, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. They could turn the tide. But outside, she caught a glimpse of the SUV still lingering, ominous and dark against the afternoon light. Her heart sank again, an icy dread gripping her once more. She knew the lurking danger wouldn't rest just because they were armed with information. The true battle had yet to unfold. Do you think they'll come back? She asked, anxiety lacing her voice. The sheriff met her gaze, determination etched on his face. They will. But we'll be ready. As she watched the shadows dance against the office wall, Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The stakes were higher than ever. Would she have the strength to face whatever came next? The moment was heavy with uncertainty, but she clung to the hope that justice would prevail. One thing was clear, she wouldn't go down without a fight. But what would happen when the darkness fully descended upon them? When the game finally revealed its true nature? The sheriff paced the length of the office, his brow furrowed deeply. Sarah remained at the table, her fingers grazing the edges of the file. It was a lifeline, yet the weight of what they were about to face loomed larger than any paperwork. The discussion still hung in the air like a palpable fog. Do you have everything? The sheriff asked, his voice steady but urgent. Sarah nodded, her throat tightening. I've been collecting it all for weeks: notes, recordings, even some photos. The way he looked at her, equal parts admiration and worry, sent a rush of warmth through her. She had thought that gathering evidence wouldn't matter much, but now, it felt like she was holding on to the very threads of her future. Good, he said, folding the file carefully and handing it back to her. We'll need to copy these and distribute them to a few trusted people. The more eyes on this, the better. The idea of trust stung. Who could they rely on when Rachel's shadow loomed so large? But she had to push those thoughts aside. Fear was not going to win this battle. A flicker outside caught her eye. The SUV was still there, parked at an odd angle, as if its occupants were just waiting, watching. It felt like a predator lurking on the fringe, ready to pounce. Sheriff, she whispered. I don't like that they're so close. Shouldn't we? I don't know, should we do something? His gaze was fixed on the window. Like what? We can't run out there, waving our arms. They want to intimidate you, but we will not give them that satisfaction. Her heart raced again. But what if they come in again? What if they focus? Sarah, he interrupted gently but firmly. The best way to beat them is to stay calm and collected. Fear is what they thrive on. You need to remember that. She could feel a rush of anger bubbling under her skin. The fear was infectious, and while she wanted to shake it off, it clung to her like a wet blanket. Okay, she said, taking a deep breath. You're right. But I can't help but think, what are they really after? It feels deeper than just intimidation. The sheriff nodded slowly. That's a question we need to answer. Rachel has a network, and if they're involved, it's because you've stirred something significant. The heavy silence settled in again. They both stared at the file that lay open between them, a bittersweet reminder of the reality they had to face. Finally, Sarah's voice broke the stillness. You know, I never thought I'd end up here fighting for my life because of a past I couldn't escape. I thought I could simply forget, but she wouldn't let me. The sheriff moved closer, his expression softening. You're stronger than you realize, Sarah. And you're not just fighting for yourself. Think of your children. They need a mother who stands up to danger, not just cowers from it. His words resonated deeply, poking through the blanket of anxiety. She had a choice to make: stay hidden and allow someone else's influence to dictate her fate, or fight back for something greater than herself. Right, she said, feeling her resolve shift. I'm not cowering down. I have to protect my family. We have to take this to the next level. The sheriff smiled, a glimmer of pride flickering in his eyes. That's the spirit. Now, let us come up with a plan on how to gather more support without drawing attention. As he outlined their strategy, Sarah felt the heaviness start to lift. But just as they began to gain momentum, the door slammed open again, and both their heads snapped toward the sound. The same man from earlier stood there, flanked by two others, their intentions unreadable but menacing. I told you I'd be around, he drawled, a twisted smile playing on his lips. Stomach twisting, Sarah realized this was not over. How would they fend off this threat? They had prepared, but were they truly ready to face what was about to unravel? Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as the man stepped further into the office, flanked by his companions who exuded a menacing calm. Should she run? Hide? Fight back? The sheriff shifted protectively beside her, but she could see the tension in his posture. This wasn't just a casual confrontation. This was a battle that had been simmering, and it was boiling over. What do you want? The sheriff demanded, his voice firm yet a notch less confident than usual. The man chuckled softly, the sound sending a chill down Sarah's spine. We just wanted to chat, he said, each word dripping with insincerity. Sarah here has caused quite the stir. It's only fair we get to know her a little better. He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing as they locked onto Sarah. You've been busy, haven't you? She felt exposed beneath his gaze, as if he could see right through her, down to her core where her smoldering determination and cloaked fear lay intertwining. This wasn't just about her anymore, it felt like every thread of her life was woven into this moment. I won't let you intimidate me, she finally managed to say, her voice trembling but resolute. The sheriff put a reassuring hand on her back, encouraging her to stand tall. Oh, I don't want to intimidate you, sweetheart, he said with a cruel grin. I want to offer you a deal. A deal? The sheriff scoffed. You think we're interested in whatever twisted offer you're peddling? The man shrugged, nonchalant. I think you'll be very interested, Sheriff. Sarah here has information that could change everything, for both of us. All I want is a little collaboration. Sarah exchanged a quick glance with the sheriff. The weight of her evidence suddenly felt enormous, like a ticking clock. They couldn't let it fall into the wrong hands. Forget it, Sarah snapped, finding her voice, her anger rising. I'm not afraid of you. What you want is irrelevant. He laughed again, and it twisted inside her. Is that so? You might want to reconsider your bravado. You don't know what I'm capable of. Neither do you, she shot back, summoning her courage. If she was going to stand her ground, now was the moment. For a heartbeat, silence enveloped them. Then, he took another step forward, leaning closer, and Sarah could smell his stale cologne, a mix of too much confidence and cheap triumph. You're wasting your potential, Sarah. You could be part of something bigger. But if you resist, well, let us just say the consequences might be something you'll regret. Her heart raced, the stakes now sharpened into focus. The sheriff's protective stance tightened, and she felt emboldened by his presence. "Get out," she said defiantly. "You don't scare me." "Enjoy your delusions," he replied, leaning back and throwing a glance at his companions. "I'll be back. And next time, you might not have the sheriff to protect you." He nodded once before retreating, signaling his followers to follow suit. As the door lurched closed behind them, the air felt heavier, like a storm rolling in. Sarah turned to the sheriff, who looked as shaken as she felt. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly despite her earlier bravado. "We prepare," he said, urgency lacing his words. "We prepare for everything. Because I have a feeling this isn't just about you anymore. They're seeking something much bigger." The tension hung between them like a thick fog, each acknowledging the weight of the danger ahead. "We need to gather more evidence, allies, something that will shake up Rachel's whole operation," Sarah replied, her heart steadying with resolve. "Exactly," the sheriff agreed, determination visible in his gaze. "And while they think they're playing games, we'll be the ones with the upper hand." But in her gut, Sarah still felt the shadows lurking. Whispers of doubt crept in, reminding her that they weren't just up against Rachel anymore. They were caught in a web far more dangerous than she had anticipated. As they turned to plan their next moves, her phone buzzed on the table. She hesitated, fear creeping back. What if it was bad news? What if? With a shaky hand, she picked it up, her stomach twisting tight as she read the message. "Meet us where it all began. Time is running out." Was it a lifeline or another trap? As the weight of decision hung heavily, she felt the threads of her past and present being tightly woven into an uncertain future, pulling her deeper into a confrontation she might not be prepared for. What had she truly uncovered? And more importantly, who else was now involved? Sarah's mind raced over the cryptic message. Just moments ago, she had felt the warmth of resolve, but now doubt festered within her like poison. The sheriff watched her closely, his handsome features furrowed with concern. "Who's it from?" he asked, his voice steady despite the tension that crackled in the air. "Just a number I don't recognize," she replied, swallowing hard. "But they want me to meet them where it all began." "What does that even mean?" The sheriff rubbed his chin, his eyes narrowing. "You're not thinking of going, are you?" Her pulse quickened. "What if it's a lead? It could help us understand what they want, what they're planning. Or it could be a trap," he cautioned. "You saw how he looked at you. They won't hesitate to use you to get what they want." A part of her wanted to jump at the chance, to feel in control for once. But there was a deeper fear rooted in her heart. "I have to go," she said finally, her voice firmer than she felt. "I need answers. I can't keep running." The sheriff's face was carved from stone. "You're not running. You're standing and fighting. But I can't let you do this alone. If you're going, I'm going with you." Sarah shook her head. "If this is a trap, it's better for you to stay behind. I can't put you in more danger." "Not a chance," he said resolutely, stepping closer. "You may be the one with the information, but I'm your protection. I've got your back, and I won't let you face whatever this is on your own." Something in his voice soothed the growing storm within her. She desperately wanted to believe in him, in the strength he offered. "Okay," she conceded softly. "But we have to plan this out carefully." After what felt like hours of brainstorming, they made their way to the designated meeting place. It was an old warehouse by the docks, the very same spot where Sarah and her friends used to sneak away for evening adventures. The memories of laughter and carefree days made her body feel heavier. The shadows of that past were now replaced with a darker, more treacherous weight. As they approached, Sarah spotted a figure leaning against the rusted metal wall, barely illuminated by the waning sunlight. Heart racing, she recognized the familiar silhouette. "It can't be," she whispered, astonishment gripping her. "It is," the sheriff replied, his expression hardening. "Stay alert. As they drew closer, the figure straightened up, stepping into the light. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It was someone she hadn't seen in years, someone who left a huge scar on her heart. "Surprised to see me?" the woman said, a sardonic smile dancing on her lips. "Why are you here?" Sarah stammered, her heart pounding. "What do you want?" The woman shrugged, an effortless gesture that spoke volumes. "Let's just say I'm not the one pulling the strings now. But you have the chance to make this right. Choose wisely, Sarah." The sheriff moved closer to Sarah, sensing the shift in her demeanor. "What does that mean?" he demanded, but it was clear the woman was here on a different mission, one that transcended them both. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, vibrating loudly against her palm. She glanced at the screen, dread flooding her senses. Another message appeared, pulling her into a spiraling wave of uncertainty. "Time is ticking, Sarah. Make your choice." In that moment, she felt the weight of her past crushing down, merging with the tangled web of her present and the uncertain future. She was standing at a crossroads, and every path seemed to lead deeper into danger. What would she choose? Was this her chance for redemption, or the beginning of something far worse? Then an unexpected sound of footfall behind her. The sheriff turned, eyes narrowing, ready to face whatever was coming. Who else had been drawn into this grim reunion? Time was running out, and so were her options. The unexpected sound sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. She turned slowly, heart hammering against her ribcage. In the dim light of the warehouse, shapes emerged from the shadows. More figures, at least 3, moved closer, their outlines becoming clearer, their intentions unreadable. "Stay behind me," the sheriff ordered, his voice low, barely above a whisper. The approach of the newcomers felt like an ominous storm rolling in, dark and threatening. Sarah grasped the edge of her phone tightly, its light illuminating the faces of the approaching strangers, and her instincts screamed that this was about to escalate. "Looks like the family reunion has more guests," the woman in front of her remarked, an unsettling calmness draping over her words. "I hope you're ready, Sarah. You've stirred the pot, and now, well, let us just say they're here for the main course." The sheriff shifted closer to Sarah, positioning himself between her and the newcomers. He scanned the trio, estimating dangers with keen eyes. "We're not here to fight," he stated firmly, but she could sense the tension in his muscles, coiled like a spring, ready to unleash if needed. "Maybe not," one of the strangers called out. "But we're certainly not here to let you walk away." His grin was sharp, like a knife pointed at them. Sarah felt her breath hitch. "What do you want?" she managed to ask, urgency threading through her words. The weight of the moment was heavy, thick with dread and uncertainty. The woman chuckled, a low, throaty sound. "Oh, sweet Sarah. It's not about what we want. It's about what you've got, information. Or perhaps something more valuable." The deputy behind her could sense Sarah's agitation. "We're leaving," he said, with an authority that brooked no argument. He glanced at Sarah. "I need you to trust me." But trust was in short supply. "What if they know something?" she mumbled, her eyes darting from one figure to another, searching for any hint of deceit or intention. "Then let us find out." The sheriff stepped forward, unwavering, taking control of the moment. "You're outnumbered. This can end peacefully." "Peacefully?" The woman erupted into laughter. "You think this is about peace, officer? This is about power, who holds it and who doesn't." Sarah stepped beside him, rising to face the woman who had haunted her memories. "What is it that you think I have?" Fear surged through her, but she clamped down on it. She couldn't show weakness. "You know the truth, Sarah." "The truth about everything," the woman replied, her gaze piercing. "And if you don't tell us what we need, you'll regret it." The discontent and uncertainty among the newcomers spread like wildfire. They were not merely a group of thugs, they were a calculated threat, each one searching for an opening, a way to press advantage. In that surreal moment, Sarah became acutely aware of time slipping through her fingers like sand. Every second felt vital, and her mind raced to form a strategy, to uncover a path that could lead her to safety. Suddenly, another vibration interrupted her thoughts. A third message buzzed against her palm. This one sent icy panic coursing through her veins. She glanced down, the screen lit up with words that chilled her heart. "You're running out of time. Make your choice, or else." The sheriff tightened his grip on her arm. "We need to go, now." "And not yet," she stammered, feeling the weight of her past and the chilling reality of her present colliding in a cacophony of emotions. "I need to know what she means. I have to understand." The woman smiled, the kind of smile that danced with wicked possibilities. "Ah, but see, that's where you're wrong, isn't it? The choice is never yours to make. It's already been made for you." The darkness, both familiar and foreign, seemed to close in around them, each heartbeat resounding with a thunderous echo that filled the air. Could Sarah navigate through this twisted game? Would she stand firm and face the choices ahead, or succumb to the rising tide of fear and uncertainty? Before she could wrestle with those questions, the trio surged forward, and her world collapsed into chaos. What truths lay ahead? There would be no turning back now. The chaos erupted like a match thrown into a barrel of gasoline. The sheriff pushed Sarah back, trying to shield her, but the trio lunged forward with a fierce energy that sent her heart spiraling. "Get down," the sheriff shouted, his voice breaking through the din. Sarah obeyed instinctively, dropping to her knees as the sounds of struggle echoed around her. The warehouse, once a mere backdrop, transformed into a battleground of shouts and crashes. As Sarah crouched, her pulse thundered in her ears. The beam of her phone flickered across the figures, illuminating the intensity of the encounter. The woman, now fully released from her calm facade, had charged at the sheriff, trying to wrestle control away from him. The two men flanked her, eyes wild with excitement. They were predators, and the energy of the moment tasted like blood in the air. "Stay close," the sheriff growled, throwing a powerful shove at one of the men. The impact sent him sprawling against a stack of crates. But it only took a second for the woman to regain her balance, pushing through the fallen figure like a tidal wave. There was fierceness in her eyes, a determination that made Sarah's gut twist. As Sarah scrambled to her feet, she realized her phone still connected to the chaos. In a frantic move, she aimed the light toward the nearest exit, searching for a way out. Hope flickered briefly, but then panic set in as she realized the exit was blocked. They were trapped, and the walls felt like they were closing in on her. "Sarah!" the sheriff called, his voice strained as he fended off another assault. "We need to make it to the door now." But the words barely registered. All she could focus on was the woman approaching her, smile now replaced by something darker. "You think you can run from your past?" she sneered, taking slow, deliberate steps toward her. "You can't escape what you are. What you've done." Fear gripped Sarah, but it flared into anger. Wasn't this the moment she had been waiting for? The chance to stand up instead of hiding in fear? "I'm not running," she shouted, her voice breaking free. Before she could dissect her emotions further, her body surged forward, propelled by raw adrenaline. "What do you want from me?" she demanded, confronting the woman who once wielded power over her life. The recklessness of her boldness surprised even her. The woman's grin faltered for an instant, replaced by confusion. "You know the truth. That's what I want. You're the key." Sarah felt a surge of defiance. "Truth? You want the truth? I don't owe you anything." She couldn't back down now. Not when everything felt like it hinged on this moment. The sheriff managed to regain some ground, sending another assailant careening away from Sarah. "Let us go, Sarah. We don't have time for this." His voice was a lifeline, pulling her back from the edge of uncertainty. But the realization struck like a jolt. The truth was a burden she had carried for so long, and now it flared up inside her like a wildfire. Did she possess information that could turn this situation around? Could she flip the script and regain control? The woman's face twisted with malice, clearly sensing Sarah's inner turmoil. "You're stronger than you appear, but you're still weak," she taunted, her voice dripping with disdain. Before Sarah could reply, the room erupted into another wave of chaos. With every ounce of fear and fury, she realized that her moment of choice had come. The dark past that remained tangled in her life was slowly unraveling in front of her, and it was her turn to reclaim it. "Get ready!" The sheriff shouted again, and with one powerful action, he pushed against the last attacker, creating a momentary opening. "Follow me!" He barked, and without a second thought, Sarah dashed through the space he created, heart racing with determination. Behind her, she could hear the woman's furious scream, but she didn't dare look back. Suddenly, another message vibrated in her pocket, loud and imposing amidst the chaos. "The clock is ticking, Sarah. Make your choice." The weight of it bore down on her as she navigated through the narrow paths of the warehouse. What choice awaited her at the end of this escape? Would she be able to escape the darkness that sought to trap her forever? And in that moment of flight, she knew they would have to face the truth together. But the truth, as they both knew, could be deadly. Adrenaline surged through Sarah's veins as she sprinted alongside the sheriff, his presence a shield against the chaos swirling behind them. They darted down an empty corridor, the echoes of shouts and scuffles fading into the distance. Each step felt heavy, her heart pounding not just from fear but from a burgeoning sense of freedom. "Keep going," the sheriff urged, his voice cutting through the haze of panic. Just ahead, a door stood ajar, light spilling out like a beacon. Hope flickered at the end of the tunnel. They charged toward it, determination fueling their escape. As they burst outside, the cool night air hit Sarah like a splash of water, shocking her senses awake. She took a deep breath, the moment stretching almost blissfully. But then, she turned back to the warehouse, the looming shadows of the men darkening the doorway. This wasn't over. "Where's your car?" she asked, glancing frantically around. The streets were eerily quiet. "Over here." He pointed down the sidewalk, and they dashed for the sheriff's vehicle parked a few yards away, breathless but moving with urgency. Once inside, the sheriff fumbled for the keys and started the engine with a loud roar. "We need to regroup and come up with a solid plan." "They one stop," he said, eyes locked ahead. "Who were those people?" Sarah asked, her mind racing with the fragments of the confrontation. "Rachel's network is deeper than I expected. They think they can control you by using your past against you," he replied, scanning the street for signs of pursuit as he backed away from the curb. "And what do they want?" "This isn't just about me." Sarah's voice quaked with desperation. "It's about power. We need to make sure you're safe and cut off whatever hold they think they have on you." He took a deep breath, determination in his gaze. "But we're going to change the rules of this game." The thought sent a shiver down her spine. The time for reaction was over, now it was time to take the offensive. The sheriff parked in a remote spot near the diner, far from prying eyes. "We'll figure this out here," he said, turning to her. "What do you know about their operation?" "You've been gathering evidence." Sarah felt the rush of the confrontation wash over her, a storm of emotions ready to erupt. "I have files, recorded calls, patterns in insurance claims. There are connections to Rachel's dealings." "Excellent." The sheriff seemed to light up with enthusiasm. "We can use that to expose her, not just as a liar, but as someone who betrays the trust of this community she claims to protect." "But how do we present this without putting our necks on the line?" Sarah's voice trembled slightly, the memory of danger still vivid. "We start by sharing it with people we can trust, friends, and perhaps even local media. The more people know, the harder it will be for her to silence you," he replied, a flicker of confidence gleaming in his eyes. Sarah felt the shadows of doubt lifting, consolidating into something solid. You're right. I've been afraid of the truth all along, afraid it would lead to more pain. But if I use it, it might just end this for good. Their eyes met, and she couldn't help but see a reflection of her own determination in his. They were in this fight together, and for the first time, she felt that the weight of her past was a tool, not a chain. Just then, the phone buzzed violently in her pocket. Sarah pulled it out, glancing at the message that sent a frigid wave through her. You can't run forever. We'll be waiting. Who is it? The sheriff pressed, instinctively tensing up again. Not just Rachel, she stammered, the tremor of fear still lingering in her mind. This goes deeper. They know everything. They're watching. We'll deal with them, but first, we fight back, he said, squeezing her shoulder reassuringly. You've already shown so much strength. It's time to push back with everything you've got. So they did. As they plotted their next moves, Sarah felt a surge of empowerment radiate through her. They outlined their plan, connecting dots of information that would expose Rachel and call attention to the web of corruption. Hours passed, and the sun peaked above the horizon, lighting up Maplewood with a glow of opportunity. Together, they would shine a light on the darkness, revealing every secret that had been hidden for too long. When they finally stepped out of the car, Sarah felt different, lighter, stronger. She was ready to reclaim her life, to dismantle the chains of fear that had once bound her. As they headed towards the diner to gather support, she smiled faintly, her heart thrumming with an unfamiliar sense of hope. She was no longer just the woman who was wrong, she was a survivor, a fighter. No more shadows, just the bright light of a new morning, filled with the promise of a future untethered from fear and betrayal. She'd never let anyone strip her dignity away again. And as they moved forward, she knew deep down, sometimes, the bravest thing of all is choosing to stand up, not just for yourself, but for everyone whose stories are still waiting to be heard. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support, so hit that button. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these exclusive stories coming. Let us know your reactions and feelings about Sarah's incredible journey in the comments. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support makes all the difference.